This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello, it's Wednesday, November 3rd. Rich Pope here today with Mike Lafferty, Matt Palm, and Ryan Gillespie. Today we're going to talk about Orlando election results. Also, we're going to look at the growing controversy around the University of Florida, and we'll also find out about Broadway's return here to Orlando and how that went. We're going to start here with Ryan Gillespie. We're going to talk about Orlando elections taking place yesterday, and Orlando City Council had three big ones up. Ryan, looks like all the incumbents made it through. Tell us about the evening.
Yeah, so if you're happy with the direction of City Hall, then good news for you is the three incumbents: Jim Gray in Southeast Orlando, out in Lake Nona, he won re-election. Regina Hill in downtown Orlando and Paramore, she won re-election, and in the closest race of the night, Robert Stuart in College Park, Audubon Park, in kind of the North Orlando area, he won re-election and just barely survived having to go to a runoff next month. He got 50.7% of the vote. You've got to get one more vote than 50% to avoid a runoff, and he was able to do that. Overall, it was a low turnout, which is, I guess, to be expected in these off-cycle elections. About 13% of eligible voters in these three districts ended up casting a ballot. And in the closest race, Stewart's race in District 3, about 21% did. So decent turnout for that district, but the other two were low. Yeah,
let's talk about that Stuart Springer race. It looked like Springer did have quite a bit of endorsements from some notables here in Orlando, and it was right down there to the end.
Yeah, that was definitely the most active race. We saw a lot of elected officials who maybe sat out some other races really got in line behind either Stuart or Nicolette Springer. It was certainly the one that kind of the progressive wing of Orange County really got behind. State Representatives Anna Escamani, Carlos Guillermo Smith, the state attorney Monique Worrell, and a bunch of labor unions lined up endorsing Nicolette Springer, and she put up a good fight. She got into the solid mid 40% range. Stewart's a 16-year incumbent, so for an incumbent to lose in Orlando, a lot of things have to break right for you. He actually is the last person to defeat an incumbent, and he did it when he took office in 2006. But Robert Stewart said when he filed a run for this most recent election that this was going to be his last term in office. So maybe she comes back in a couple of years and gives it another shot.
Yeah, let's talk about Jim Gray. It looked like he campaigned on Lake Nona's growth. This seemed to be something that people agreed with.
Yeah, Lake Nona is very much a city within a city. It's kind of a complicated district to run because it's the largest geographically and by population. Population-wise, that's going to change because the city's about to do some redistricting. But that district brings in some of Orlando's kind of more established neighborhoods in the Conway area, where you've got kind of some older Orlando families that, the problems there, the problems that, any established neighborhood has, trash collection gets skipped a day, or potholes, or street lights, or traffic. And then if you go out in Lake Nona, it's very much still a developing city. It's bringing in a lot of high wage jobs and employers and, medical research and technology and things like that. But with that comes, development and these people needing a place to live. So it's a very complex district. He had far and away the most money of anybody in this race. The result wasn't overly surprising given that. But yeah, 4 more years for Jim Gray.
All right. Well, go ahead and go to OrlandoSentinel.com for more updates on election coverage from last night. You can see more results of the region and other races in other counties in the surrounding Central Florida area. But go ahead and check that out. We're going to go ahead and move forward here with Mike Lafferty. So, Mike, some growing controversy around University of Florida. And this editorial pretty much says University of Florida is looking more like a political toady than an independent academic institution. That's some scathing remarks there.
Scathing remarks because of the backdrop that led to it. The issue is that there were several political science professors who had asked permission to serve as witnesses in a lawsuit that's challenging Florida's new election law. Well, they got turned back by the university, which is basically saying they don't want these professors to challenge state government. And that's, to some people, including our editorial board, pretty scary proposition when a academic institution is now telling its professors, hey, listen, we don't really want you getting involved in something that might be critical of state government. So yeah, there's scathing comments.
Right. University of Florida took the stance that it's a conflict of interest, but this editorial points out it isn't, as far as what University of Florida defines as a conflict.
No, it didn't even come close. I mean, we looked at the definition, read it over a number of times. It's not a conflict of interest. It's a conflict with the political priorities of state government right now, the governor and the legislature, but it's not a conflict of interest with the University of Florida. Florida tried to backpedal a little and said, hey, all we meant was we just don't want them to do it if they get paid money for it. But if they want to do it on their own time for free, then that would be okay, which is also just absurd. I mean, there's no difference in terms of a conflict of interest or being adverse to the interests of the university, which is other language they do, whether you get paid or you're not paid. So, this is a flimsy bridge that the university is crossing.
Whether it be that the executive branch has some kind of influence on the university or if the university is just tiptoeing, either way, it seems like they are making decisions based on political motives.
Yeah, well, one of the factors here is that the chairman of the board of trustees for the University of Florida is a fellow named Maury Husseini, who is a big developer in Volusia County, who's also a big donor to Governor Ron DeSantis. And this election bill was one of DeSantis's signature bills from the last legislature. So we don't know what role Husseini might have had, if any, in influencing these decisions. But regardless, it looks really bad for the University of Florida to be silencing professors for what look like their political views.
Yeah, interesting one there. Of course, you can go to orlandosentinel.com for updates on as that story unwinds. Also, take a look at the editorial board does a nice job laying that one out. Go ahead and check that one out. But we're going to move forward here to Matt Palm. So, Matt, some good news for you. I know it's probably good to be back. Broadway returned to Orlando last night's show, Tootsie, and you got to go check it out. I'm sure you enjoyed being back in the Dr. Phillips Center.
I did, Rich. In fact, I wrote in my review this morning, I actually felt a little tingle when the orchestra started up the overture. It's been so long since we've had the big Broadway sound come back to Orlando. So an exciting night. And let me tell you, people, I guess, got their money's worth. Tootsie is a long show, went almost to 11 o'clock. So there was plenty of time to take in everything. And so many parts of that show reminded us of the things that Broadway fans love about a musical theater. There's the high energy choreography and the quick costume changes where all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow. And the singing, it's musical theater. The cast has great voices. So there's a lot to like about Tootsie. It is too long. And frankly, the second act feels padded to ridiculous lengths. It sort of starts losing its way. But it was just wonderful to have it back in the house.
Yeah, this Tootsie is a remake of the 80s movie. And in your review of it, you question whether it's just this indication of maybe not every movie needs to be remade, and it was this mixed bag for you.
Well, it's an interesting look at how times change, Rich. If people don't remember the movie, it involved an actor played by Dustin Hoffman who sort of burns all his bridges in New York. So to get a job, he disguises himself as a woman and gets hired as a woman and sort of lives this double life. Well, in the post Me Too era, it's a little weird that this guy is sort of now taking jobs from women, pretending to be a woman, sort of becoming confidants to these other women and then betraying them when they find out he's a man. It just reads a little strange for the way we think about gender roles and those kinds of issues now. They do try to address it and they kind of dance around this elephant in the room, but it's a pretty big elephant.
Right. Another thing that happened last evening as you returned, and you wrote a story about this previously, is just getting into Dr. Phillips easier. Did it seem like that way? They have this new way of getting through security that should streamline things.
It did seem better. I was one of those people who, should have gotten there a little earlier than I did. I shouldn't admit that, but it's true. So at around 10 minutes before the curtain, I was coming in, trying to get in, and there were a lot of people lined up. But I tell you, they were breezing through. What they've done is they've gone with a new security system called Evolve Express. They actually started experimenting with it right before the COVID pandemic shut down much of the live entertainment. So people who've gone to some of the few events that have been inside at the Dr. Phillips Center have already seen this. You might also have seen this technology if you've been to Walt Disney World, which saw the Dr. Phillips Center experimenting with it and was so impressed they added it to their theme parks. So it's touchless. There's no more everyone getting their bags searched, which just serves to speed everything up so much. Women tend to bring bags to the theater. They just breeze right through. You do get some alarms go off for, certain reasons. There's, proprietary intelligence at work there, but nothing like before. And it really moved very smoothly, even coming in 10 minutes before the show. Not that I'm encouraging everyone to do that. The lines went fast, and the big crowd in front of me just sort of disappeared. We got in no time.
So this is essentially like a metal detector, I guess, went on steroids, right?
Yeah, it goes beyond a metal detector in that while a metal detector just knows if you have metal, this system has an artificial intelligence built in that it can determine kind of what the metal object is. So if it's your phone, it knows it's your phone based on sort of the size, the shape, the location on your body where it is. It's smart. I mean, it has intelligence. It can tell that. So, Dr. Phillips Center said they have tested it with different configurations. They've tested it with people trying to carry 6 cell phones in, and it still lets them through. It knows they're all phones. They've tested it with every kind of weapon imaginable, and it caught every single one every time. It just knows, Rich. It's the scary future where the machines know more than we do.
That's really cool. Let me ask you this. Does this make you procrastinate more?
No, it made me remember, oh gosh, I'm going to Broadway. There's a huge crowd. I need to get in gear and get there a little earlier.
All right. Well, good stuff there. And of course, good news from Matt there with Broadway's return here in Orlando. Stay with him for more coverage as the season unwinds. But we're going to go ahead and call it quits here for today. Want to point out, become a subscriber. Go to orlandosentinel.com/subscribe and support our work. We always do appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and call it quits. Until next time, I'm Rich, Matt, Mike, and Ryan. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on orlandosentinel.com.